Hello, everyone. This is Laura, and this is episode 3 of Stuff I Find Interesting. Now, I've made some adjustments. There's not going to be any post production on this because I want to see how the sound and the light are without any of that. And then we can go back in and we can fix it. Also, I don't know what I'm doing, so it makes it difficult to fix. So it's a little by little. Last week I discovered again that I talk for too long. People are probably falling asleep. So we're going to speed run. We're going to speed run. We're going to speed run through this. And then we're going to post it. And if nothing else, it's good practice. And I enjoy this. I like looking at stuff, obviously. So here we have 2 men under a stone wall. So let's make this big. So back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, it was in vogue for men of money or intellectual prestige to travel to these various places. Now, if we look at this picture, we have a gentleman here. He's carrying his water jug around his neck. And then we have this other guy here who's wearing what looks like a suit. And he has a more, I feel like he has a more westernized haircut. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But this photograph was taken in Chiapas, Mexico. I don't know if this is Chichen Itza, but it was taken by John Alden Mason, who was a linguist and an archaeologist. And he traveled around the world taking amazing pictures like this one. So we can see here is the main temple, which is undoubtedly covered at this point, right? Okay, so then we've got the ground. So all of this was under the ground and had to be dug out. So just think about that for a minute. All of this. That's a lot. Okay. This area, Chiapas, is between Tabasco and Guatemala. I have some pictures to show you just so you get an idea of what it looks like. It looks like an incredibly beautiful place. These temples are made with 91 steps and 9 different platforms. And they're made in such a way that during certain times of the year, the light crawls down the steps like a serpent. Here we have a beautiful waterfall. We have some type of coffee. And we have Spanish colonial influenced architecture here. And this is just my favorite picture. This is just very amazing and dramatic. So that's Chiapas, land of the Mayans. Well, part of, obviously they covered a big area. This is the temple entrance. We were just looking at the temple. This is what it looked like as they were sort of excavating it. So you can see it's just a bunch of rubble, right? This is all buried. You can see these are the stairs and they're covered. So all of that got uncovered. So it makes you wonder what else is buried out there. You know, what's beneath your feet? What's beneath my feet? I don't know. Okay, moving on. We're going to go through some pictures. Not this one, though. Oh, my God. Wrong one. I found a picture of this painting that I like, but there were ads on the right-hand side, and I failed to notice at first that the ads were not appropriate. So here's a new picture. So this is from Wikipedia. This is Max Kurziel. He was a painter, and he was known as a poet with a paintbrush. And I see I have a cat coming in over there, so watch out. Now, Max was not a happy guy. I'm going to show you Max. This is Max. Hi, Max. Max is not a happy guy. He committed suicide. He killed his partner, and then he killed himself. He suffered from very bad depression. And even though his paintings were well received, and he had a traditional classical Paris, teaching, he was depressed. And that's the thing about depression. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are in life. It will get you. Or I should say it can get you. Obviously, it's a tough thing. So that's Max Kurziel. Moving on, we have, this is a hyperboloid structure by Vladimir Shukov. All Russian exhibition in Nizhny Novgorod, 1896. So you've probably heard about the World's Fairs, the ones that happen in like Chicago and San Francisco, New York City. You know, they were fancy. This is basically the Russian version of the World's Fair. And Shukov was basically kind of like a rocket scientist in a way. And he was obsessed with building structures and building structures in such a way that they were economical in terms of material and that they would stand up. So this is the hyperboloid structure, which seems like, oh yeah, what a big deal, but it was pretty revolutionary at the time. So here we have Shukov. Here's a picture of Shukov, and he is known as for the Shukov Tower, which has proven to be a groundbreaking innovation at the time. Actually, it really was. He used wicker baskets as inspiration. Now, interesting to note, today's modern spaceships use origami as inspiration because everything has to fold up and then unfold. So they study origami, the people that do origami or have done origami, to see how things fold, to see if they can make the equipment fold up so that they can have more space, or they can unfurl a solar sail, or whatever the case may be. So we're going to look at some more structures. This is another one. The tower was no mere curiosity. It was there on duty, serving as a water tower and supplying water for the entire exhibition. What's more, a viewing platform was installed above the water tank for all exhibition guests to come up and enjoy. Didn't we have water tanks last time? I guess we have more water tanks. All right, we have some more pictures, and there's the hyperboloid structure, which is on the Prolebino estate. All right, moving on. Next picture. This is recognized as one of the first department stores that ever existed. This was in the late 1700s to early 1800s, and this was primarily aimed towards women that had money. You know, their husbands were at war or working in the town as merchants or whatever, and they would come here and they would get their hats and their ribbons and their fabrics and make beautiful things, wear beautiful things. So this looks like a really kind of a cool place. I thought that was neat. I saw that and I was like, oh wow, that's kind of neat. It also shows that not much has really changed, right? Behind the counter, you've got the drawers, you've got the bolts of fabric, chairs so women can sit down and consult. This woman has her dog with her. Very relatable, I think. All right, so last week we were talking about a couple things. First, we were talking about Bindon Blood. Remember him? He was that guy who fought that war in India. Well, I found out this week that one of his soldiers was Winston Churchill, and Winston Churchill called him one of the most inspirational leaders he'd ever known. This is Bindon Blood right here, this picture. And he is with his men. I'm not sure exactly where this is taken. But he was related to Colonel Thomas. I can't remember the name. Anyway, his uncles tried to steal the crown jewels in 1861, I think. Or no, going back further, like a great uncle in 1671 tried to steal the crown jewels. Yes, I have that right. Do I have that right? Yes, I have that right. Okay. All right, moving on to the Khyber Pass. We're talking about the Khyber Pass, right? The Khyber Pass goes between Pakistan and Afghanistan. It's a route in between very steep mountains and a valley. And it is known for being a place of conflict, even today. So here's an older picture. And here we have a newer picture. Here we have a newer picture. Not much different. Here we have an older picture. Newer picture. Fairly recent picture. And here we have some dudes hanging out, waiting for some action. Old picture, new picture. This is some of the architecture. Now, last week, remember we looked at this right here. Well, that was like 200 years ago, and this was a couple weeks ago. So you can see not much has changed. They're still sitting in the valley, fighting each other. Okay, so moving on. We're doing great. I'm so happy. All right. We are going to move on to the Khyber Pass guns, which is why I brought the topic back up. So in the Khyber Pass, there's not a lot of materials. So guns get made out of very interesting things in very interesting and creative ways. So there are people that will actually collect Khyber Pass guns because they are so unique. And this one is my favorite. Look at that. It's just crazy, right? I can't even believe it. I guess you would stick that in your shoulder and you would it's pretty crazy to me. But yes, so those are Khyber Pass guns, and I have another couple of pictures to show you. We've got this guy. And here he is he's kind of flat, right? It's kind of a flat gun. Some more pictures of the gun, but you can really see how other materials were reused and put, into it. And that's it. Like I said, there are people that collect these guns and have conversations about it. And this is a place where they go in this forum, which is called... I did copy all the links this time and all the pictures, so it will be dropped in here. Tokarov and other Khyber Pass guns. So heavy on the pictures. Next, we're going to talk about Architecture of Doom, a website I really like. Why do I really like it? Because there's a lot of pictures and it's really cool architecture. Look at that. So that, I guess you would call that brutalist architecture. It looks kind of like a telephone. Hello, hello. Where did you get your architecture license? No, I'm just kidding. But there was one thing I wanted to show you. Let me scroll down to here. Okay, here we are. Architecture of Doom. Look at that. So you think, wow, that must be, in the mountains, right? There's someone walking. Maybe it's a little muddy. And actually, I'm here to tell you that those are not mountains. That's industrial waste that's piled up behind those buildings. It's called slag. Now, in England, I forget the exact date, there was a horrifying incident whereupon an entire slag pile that was just massive came down and took out like half the town and primarily went through the school and killed the children. So very sad. Talk about architecture of doom. This is definitely doomy indeed, and something to think about. I don't think we pile our slag behind buildings like this anymore. Things have changed a lot. All right, moving on. This is Jerboa site, naming French radioactive matter in the Sahara. So, in 1960, the French military detonated the first of 17 atomic bombs in the Algerian Sahara. The site of the inaugural bomb was Regain, a district with a town, villages, and an oasis located in the Tanazurft plain of the colonized desert, approximately 1,000 kilometers south of Algiers. So if you think of Africa, you think of the top middle and you go drop down a little bit, that's about where it would be. Immediately after, Charles de Gaulle made a public announcement. Hurrah for France! As of this morning, it is louder, stronger, prouder, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, they weren't real thinking about the destruction that this could bring. So they exploded 4 atmospheric and 13 underground bombs during this time period, and it's not really known. People don't really know this. They built 2 whole bases in the Saharan desert that covered over 100,000 acres. There were 10,000 civil and military French personnel. And then the underground folks, there was 2,000, or the above ground was 2,000, underground was 10,000, I think. I might have that backwards. But 12,000 people in the middle of the Saharan desert, suddenly blowing stuff up. So here, as I said, kind of in the middle, there's Libya, Mauritania. Remember we talked about the Richat structure last week? they just started blowing stuff up. Actually, it's 100,000 square kilometers. I was incorrect. So they started blowing up bombs, and they gave them names. So the atmospheric bombs were codenamed gerboises, after the tiny jumping desert rodents. So they gave them colors: gerbois bleu, gerbois blanche, gerbois vert, gerbois rouge. Yes. So they they called them different colors, and they blew them up. And then the underground bombs were named after natural gemstones, and so emerald, amethyst, sapphire, corundum. So anyway, so in 1961, Algeria said, "Hey, wait a minute. We want to be a country. We're free. We declare ourselves free. We're under nobody's rule." This was in 1961. But it wasn't until 1966 that French finally moved their nuclear weapons testing out of there to Mururoa and Fangatofa atolls, which is in French Polynesia, in the southern Pacific Ocean. And there they conducted nearly 200 atmospheric and underground nuclear experiments between 1966 and 1996, which really wasn't that long ago. So anyway, the whole point of this is that there is a radioactive substance comprised of fused sand that has been created from the blasts. And they call it gerboisite, after the bombs that were exploded. The 4 Jerboa bombs, blue, white, red, and green, like the French flag, were detonated in the ground zero zone. The first bomb, blue, was plutonium filled with a blast capacity of approximately 60 to 70 kilotons, which was 4 times the strength of Little Boy, which is the one that was dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. So they were dropped from a steel tower. Okay, so there's a new element in town, and the new element is gerboisite, which has fused sand and solidified lava, and then underneath it is the vegetation and the water. And the vitrified sand is very contaminated. The contamination spread as far as the Mediterranean. There are parts of Africa that are still radioactive. But because it's the Sahara, people don't really, I guess, talk about it. This is one of the bombs. And that's really all I wanted to talk about. And because I think it's pertinent with the nuclear discussions that are taking place, that we have these talks about bombs and our history and just being more responsible and environmentally. I'll get off my soapbox now. All right, last. This is last. I'm doing great. Did you know that California is an island? Oh yeah, look at this. This is a map from 1666, and you can see that there is a space between the coast and then the shape of California. And if we go up here on some of these names, you can see we have Francisco, Monterey, S. Barbara, San Diego, San Clemente. A lot of these names are the same right now. The names of states since 1666, which is crazy to think about. So, was California an island? Let's look at some maps. All right, we got this guy. Another one with the little islands in the middle, which I find interesting. This one, which also shows the islands. And then we have the last pic I want to show you, which is this one. Now, getting back to California being an island. This whole article, which will be included in the link, basically talks about how some guy made a mistake in like 1539, and the mistake got carried through for like hundreds of years, so that California was represented as an island, and it really wasn't an island. It was a mistake. That's what is said, and that's what is known. Because we're going to end talking about conspiracies again. Now, if we look at the United States, Remember we looked at, what were we looking at? Oh, the Ricat structure with the sand being all swooshed from like water possibly. There is some conjecture that, wait a minute, where's Colorado? That this whole area was wiped out by a huge flood. That there was water that came down from up here and came down and took out this whole area, and California floated away. Now you say, why would they think that? That's really strange. Well, I'm going to tell you why they thought that. They thought that because there's this other map, and other maps as well, not just this one. There's a couple of them that have this big, big thing of water up above Louisiana. This big thing of water. So the conspiracy theory is that this, due to an earthquake or maybe a shelf fell off the coast, maybe there was a meteor, I don't know. Something happened to make this lake bust open. And all of this water came down and just chopped California right off. And then California eventually floated back, which is probably the most ridiculous part of it all. But, you know, so those are my pictures, is my stuff. I'm just going to end with some pictures that I came across during this week just to show you. This is from the Khyber Pass. This is a Buddhist relic, and many, many, many Buddhist relics have been destroyed or lost because of the nature of the instability of the area. It's a yurt. I wanted to show you guys some yurts from last week. Remember we were talking about yurts. So this is probably more of a humble yurt. All of those people live in there. This is an old-timey yurt. You can see this one is more, looks like animal skin. This is how you build a yurt. Someone puts up the wicker, you erect the posts. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. I feel like I could put a yurt up. Maybe not. We have these guys, look. And the thing I like about this is they had cheetahs. And you say, what? This is fantastical. It's actually not fantastical. They did actually have cheetahs. They were seen as a mark of prestige. So as you can tell in the back with that particular yurt, it's very fancy. This would be a yurt town, so to speak. And here we have the people on horses, which is still very common. People, remember I said 3/4 of Mongolia live in yurts or gers right now. So a lot of people still using horses. This is a fancy yurt. So this is one that's a little bit fancier. You can see it has a fancy door. It's got a fancy top. The doors are very important in the yurts and gers, and I didn't talk about that last time. Maybe I'll talk about that some other time. But the neighbors try to outdo each other with their doors and make them really fancy, because the door can then just be removed and put flat and then on the cart. Here we have another one. This also looks like felt. This one is the most primitive of all. We have this little boy here. He's so cute. And okay, we're going to get rid of Max because he looks really depressed. And we are going to finish off with this. So, I went into debt to build a machine that generates holographic numbers and equations whenever I wish to appear thoughtful. Was that a good use of money? Yes, 1,000 times yes. And with that, I'm going to end. I have to make phone calls and crap and be an adult, which I don't want to do, but you know, we have to do what we have to do. Hopefully the sound is better. I'm going to upload this. Take care.